You know, I tell you what, ladies, at $5.80, Mother will have to make miracles to make this one work. Let's bring in a power panel, all right? Heather Zumaraga's with us, Beverly Hallberg, both two of my favorites. Hey, let me start with you, Beverly, because for me, this is the more media gaslighting the public. I mean, to me, the real message is that the mainstream media hasn't gotten the real message.
The only thing I can come up with is that they're referring to the Hollywood elite who are on Ozempic and have little to no appetite. That's the only thing that makes sense for this number, because we all know you can't even take your family to McDonald's on this dollar amount. So I think you are right. This is gaslighting, and it is the doubling down, refusing to see what is. They are walking in lockstep with the Democrat Party and have failed to do any self-reflection and learn from lessons. They're going to continue to lose viewers. They're going to continue to lose people who want to read their so-called news.
Heather, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I love Tupac. Maybe he's still alive, but with $6 turkey, according to NBC, you're going to have to get around, as in I get around to many different grocery stores to find a turkey for less than $6. Completely out of touch with reality. Well, that's why the ratings are also tanking. You mentioned that the election was lost mainly in part due to the fact that the wealthy elite, yeah, they might not eat because they're on Ozempic, but they don't even go to the grocery store if they do eat. They probably have someone do it for them, have it delivered to them. So they're just completely out of touch with reality. Maybe at Chick-fil-A, if they sell turkey, you can
I don't know.
For $6.
But for 10 people, you know, it's so funny because I had fun with this pumpkin spice latte chart. I had to use it, right? Yeah. But that crowd, they tried to get Harris across the finish line, and they couldn't, but they do have a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. And I want to go back to you, Heather, because I think that chart explains the inflation conundrum. Rich people are out there, the top 20% are doing 40% of the consumption. So all your, a lot of your consumption data, your retail data, it remains high. The Fed's got to keep rates at a certain level, but everyone else is grappling because their credit card rate just went from 13% to 23%. How do we solve something like that?
Well, yeah, one way we solve it is not blaming small businesses and greedy, evil corporations, which are the words of Ms. Harris and the Biden administration. Remember, if she was elected, she was going to impose those price caps, Charles. I mean, my husband and his family have a food distributor down here in Florida, and they're squeezed. I mean, when your margins are squeezed, your profits decline, he can't compete with the Amazons, the Bezos, and the Whole Foods. And so unless you pass those costs along to the consumer, then, yeah, you're in a really tough place. And so I'm glad the new administration, President Trump, is going to come in, rein in some of that wasteful government spending, also lower energy prices. And I think it's going to be a beautiful thing to bring down prices across the board.
You know, Beverly, President-elect Trump campaigned on jump-starting the housing market. We had housing data today. Wasn't great, but the housing prices keep going up and keep going up. What do you anticipate in terms of a rollout from Trump, the new Trump administration?
Now, first of all, I do think there is more of a sense of optimism. I looked at the housing numbers in my area in South Carolina, and sales have gone up slightly. So that's good. I think people at least have some certainty for the next 4 years. But he's talked about rolling back regulations and also lowering energy costs will make sure that homes don't cost as much to build. But I really think there's this element until the economy fully gets back on track, unless interest rates start declining, especially first-time home buyers, young people in their 20s, are not going to be able to afford those homes right now. I think this is a long-term battle that he's going to have to address.
All right, ladies, let's switch gears because you know what? I'm so unhappy with customer service. Almost everywhere I go, it's become an unmitigated disaster. But on that note, I think I found my next bank. Now, it's a Japanese bank, but it's called Shikoku Bank, and they pledged to commit seppuku, right, which is essentially if they commit fraud, any employee at the bank who steals money will pay for it with his or her own property and then commit suicide. All right, so Beverly, suicide aside, though, I mean, think about this. Yesterday, we found out someone at Macy's sold $100 million, right, or hid fraudulent payments. It just feels like there's a massive disconnect. So I'm looking at corporate culture, and it seems like it's going in the wrong way. How do we fix that?
Well, putting suicide in an employee contract is quite putting the skin in the game. That's interesting. But here's what I would say. I would agree. We need better customer service, and we need people to be responsible. Here's my theory. Here's what I think you should do is if you do steal from the customer and or the business, you have to work as janitor until you pay all the money back. You agree to do that. Manual labor is where it's at.
Yeah, I don't trust them now. I think the floors are going to be sloppy. They're not going to throw the garbage away. I don't trust them in that role. We got to give them something else. Hey, I want your opinion on this, Heather, but I'm going to skip to something else because I don't know if you guys saw, Warren Buffett put out a fascinating update on his will yesterday. And his intentions is to make sure that his children have enough money, to his point, he says, to do anything but not to do nothing. He wants them to give away 99% of his fortune. And he talks about, that he doesn't think families should have this kind of money. And Heather, I want to talk to you because you're in the financial industry, and right now more and more Americans are trying to generate generational wealth. But Buffett thinks that's a mistake. What are you hearing from people?
Yeah, I still do believe in transferring generational wealth, but to a certain extent. I mean, let's see, what are the numbers that we're talking about? 140 billion or something like that, right? So, I mean, look, his kids are tasked with the job of donating 99% of that to a charity that they all three of them have to agree on, and they're stuck with 1% of his net worth. So it's not that bad, but at the same time, he's saying, wait a minute, you want to make sure you give your kids enough, but not enough so that they sit home and do nothing, right? You have to work, you have to contribute to the society, and you're not just spoon-fed. That is no way of giving back. And so he just wants to make sure that his kids contribute in some meaningful way.
You know, I got less than a minute to go, Beverly. And on top of that, he did talk about how grateful he was. He was born in America during the Great Depression, and look what he was able to become.
And I really think what he's talking about with his kid is making sure that they do work, because work brings dignity. Being productive, being able to make something, create something, brings so much joy. You can look at plenty of extremely wealthy people. If they inherited it and didn't work for it, they often live unhappy lives. So I think this is the best thing he could do as a father. I think it leads to more happiness for his children.
And what about the notion, though, that you could be born in the Great Depression and still become one of the richest persons that ever lived in this world? Phenomenal, isn't it?
I think that's what you talk about all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the American
Heather,
dream.
Beverly.